I'm just going to give a very short overview of the program and how we came to where we are now, before handing over to our research fellows for sharing their findings. So let me just take us back on this journey, just to let everyone know how long this has been in the making. This process started with a regional meeting in 2015 to discuss challenges in the water sector, and then a follow-up meeting to that in Stockholm in 2016, which really identified accountability as a key challenge and knowledge gap for the sector. This led to a think shop in Tanzania in 2018, which I think a lot of people here might have been involved in, to really drill into what the challenges for accountability are in the sector and what the knowledge gaps are for decision makers. From that think shop, the Hewlett Foundation funded a program development phase and an evidence review, which I'll share the top line findings from in a moment. And that program development phase led ultimately to this research program that we're going to be sharing some of the findings from today. As you can see from this timeline, the program launch was the beginning of 2020, so it coincided with the global pandemic. So we had a lot of changes and adjustments, as everybody did at that time. We're very proud to have come through that and be able to still produce the research and share with you the findings. So that's what we're doing now. We've got this webinar, and there will be some there's some more active actions and follow on coming down the pipe that we'll talk about later. So it's been a long road. I'll just, as I say, share some overview findings from the evidence review that informed the research projects. But it'll be very brief because we have done webinars on that before, and there are recordings of those and the papers themselves on our website. But just to set the scene, what is accountability? How do we understand accountability within this program? We have a model we refer to as the 5 R's, which is showing accountability as being a cycle or a process, rather than something that is continuous, rather than something you can have or just put in place. The 5 R's are rules, so you need clear rules, norms and standards that are in place and appropriate, and you need clear responsibilities. Who is responsible for what within the sector, without confusion or overlap. In order to ensure delivery, you need to have clear reporting and monitoring mechanisms that are available and are used, and then to review those reports to look for explanations of performance, whether that's positive or negative. And having reviewed, you also need to make sure there's a reaction to that review, whether that's corrective measures if there's been a problem, sanctions if there's poor performance, or rewards if things are going well, reinforcing things that are effective. Or if the review demonstrates that some other part of the cycle is not functioning properly, then perhaps it's a change to the structure, the rules that need to be changed, responsibilities that need to be reassigned, etc. And this is therefore an iterative process that builds the sector over time and strengthens all parts of the system in doing so, and continues on. And if any part of it is missing, then it forms a negative spiral that will undermine other progress in the sector. So it's incredibly important for accelerating progress towards water and sanitation and water resource management. So with that in mind, we developed a theory of change about how accountability can improve water outcomes, particularly improve WASH and water resource management, from interventions to enhance accountability, for example, social accountability, budget analysis, evidence-based advocacy, or statutory accountability mechanisms. But the question arises, what is the evidence on outcomes from these types of activity, and what are the factors that determine impact? And that's what the evidence review looked at. And as I mentioned before, you can see the findings on the website, but we identified a series of factors that influence those outcomes, particularly a variety of internal factors, which are things that are within the control of your program design, external factors, what's the political economy, what's the space for civics, what's the civic space for action, what's the literacy rate in the communities, and then interface factors about how those things interact, how well is your program design matched with the external environment. And but we identified a series of knowledge gaps from that evidence review, which the work of the PRFs is hopefully going to help to inform. For example, how to incentivize and nurture female leadership in key decision-making arenas, including water communities, water utilities, and other water authorities. And a couple of our researchers looking specifically at that. If you want to introduce yourselves in the chat, it's a good moment. What's the role of donors? How to cultivate trust and legitimacy and empower communities while avoiding elite capture in program design. We found in the evidence review that the role of donors was not automatically correlated with success, because it's not clear how the donor role can be constructed, and we've got some findings about that. Overall, the evidence review was very clear that these accountability activities engender positive outcomes, with 80% of the papers finding that. But the particular issues that we find here are where the challenges are. Under what conditions does decentralization increase statutory accountability? We've got decentralization going on in quite a lot of the spaces where we look, but how is it actually affecting the accountability cycle? How do you measure and track long-term behavioral shifts in governance? So how do you really know what's going on with accountability? And what can we do, and how can accountability be strengthened if there are non-democratic or authoritarian contexts or closing civic space? So as I mentioned, there's a lot more detail in the Accountability for Water website. We have the program reports, briefing notes, clips from our previous events online, and we will be adding in the research fellow reports and briefing notes and cross-country research over the course of the next couple of months. So keep an eye on it, and do also please share your own work on this topic. We have a knowledge hub on the website, and we're very keen to populate it with the work of partners and really show the critical mass of people who are concerned about this issue. So do reach out. There's contacts on the website, and also you can email myself. And yeah, very keen to engage with people here, as Muthia mentioned in her introduction. So that's my overview, but